Hello, once again. I am Doc Rotten, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net, and we're here to talk about Lovecraft Country, Episode 9, titled Rewind 1921. Yes, this is an interesting one, and yes, there's time travel. Let's do this. All right, joining me tonight is the one and only Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm just make sure you bring some tissues for this episode. That's all I gotta say.
Oh no. Bring some tissues.
Yeah, this isn't Back to the Future. This isn't the Doc Brown or any of that kind of stuff. This is totally different. But it's a more powerful thing because for those of you that got a hint of some of the stuff that happens in this episode where they mentioned in Watchmen, yeah, we get to see a lot of this, and it's a very powerful episode, I would say.
It is. It's very a very strong penultimate episode. All right, also joining us is podcasting rockstar and international cosplay queen, Vanessa Thompson. How you doing?
I'm still crying.
Still crying.
Literally just finished watching it and came in here, put the headphones on. I was like, get it together.
And tears on her cheek. Tears on her cheek. All right, well, this will be an interesting discussion. All right, also joining us is our special guest host, all the way over from Heroes and Droids. That's Christopher Slattery. We call him the Slattman. How you doing, sir?
Oh, as good as I can be after watching the most depressing hour of TV on the planet.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Sucks.
All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to give our first impressions. We're going to talk about the show, and then we're going to wrap up giving our final thoughts. They score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. You want to stick around for that. That's the fun part. But what are we talking about? We are talking about Lovecraft Country. We've been covering it all season. This is the penultimate. I have a hard time saying that word, but there it is. It's episode 9 called Rewind 1921. It aired October 11th. 2020. It's directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Sure, Nachmanoff. That's what his name is. It's written by Misha Green, Jonathan Kidd, and Sonya Winton. And it's when Hippolyta is at the helm, Leti, Ty, and Montrose. Ty. Why did I say Ty? Tick. We're doing this late, and this is all staying in. Enjoy this. Leti, Tick, and Montrose traveled to 1921 Tulsa in effort to save Dee. They're going after the Book of Names. And if you know your history, it doesn't bode well. And it does make a very powerful episode as many of our characters relive those events. And yes, let's just dive into this, shall we? I think that's the best way to handle this. Let's find out what our first impressions are. Vanessa, we're going to start with you.
This is an emotional episode. I remember us talking last week, saying we had no idea what to expect from this episode because they kind of left us on. We were going to jump into something, but we didn't know what that something was going to be, and I did not expect to be this emotionally turned upside down by this episode. I mean, just anytime we discuss the events in Tulsa in 21, it just breaks my heart that is part of our history. It just doesn't feel real. And then and because of that, them making it feel so real is so painful to watch. It's so painful to see that people had to go through something like that. But then you insert our characters into that. What do we learn about Montrose just in this episode? We get bits and pieces of Montrose to really kind of find out who he is and what kind of emotional roller coaster did he go on in this episode, just between, finally telling Tick that George is his dad, and then coming full circle to the end of the episode and how that ties itself up. It's just so crazy. And then, we've said it the whole time that Leti has kind of been our I don't want to say most believable character, but maybe the one that has been acted the best. She has acted that character just to its ultimate. You know, she has pulled out every emotion. She has made you feel everything. And then to see her go through the things she went through in this episode tonight with the house fire and then walking back while they're bombing the city is just so powerful to see. There's just so much in this episode. I feel like it just got slapped in the face at the end of this episode by everything that happened.
Oh my. All right. Well, let's find out what the rest of the crew think. Chris, Slattman. I almost just say Chris, but we call you Slattman. You're up next, sir. What is your first impression of Lovecraft Country?
This is a really good episode, but it's a really hard watch for all the reasons that Vanessa has already brought up. Yeah, it really tugs on the heartstrings, and it really makes you feel like you were there, like, and I don't know, it's heartbreaking. Just to reiterate what Vanessa said. But on top of that, it's a really intriguing story and so much character growth. And I think this show still does characters. It writes for its characters so well. And there's just, I'm amazed by how well how much you care about each one of these characters. It was awesome to see Hippolyta come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I had to give a negative, it's kind of not really a negative on the episode. It's just I feel like there's more questions than an hour of TV will give us.
Answers too.
Yeah, like I don't know how they're gonna answer all the questions in the last episode, but man, this episode was so good.
Mm-hmm.
It was powerful. All right, Christopher G. Moore, your first impression of Rewind 1921.
Wow, I mean it's you know, again, we have each episode we sort of do something a little bit different, and this one has a little bit of time travel, has a little bit of Exorcist, you know, and it's powerful. I mean, and you know, with this show, you know, has always been great because of how they integrate historical elements, whether it's characters, whether it's events, some of which we haven't heard before, or never been taught before. Let me just say that. And also experiencing works of art, whether it's poetry or songs. You know, there's a really wonderful a poem that's used in this. That's by Sonya Sanchez called "Catch the Fire." That's really very apropos. It was originally a poem that she wrote it for Bill Cosby, but it honors her ancestors, encourages youth to find themselves, to love themselves, to go after their dreams, and live up to the promise and passion of their fire. You know, and it's when you know, and I think for those people that never read about this in history book, they I know in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the whole Tulsa massacre thing, they sort of kind of swept under the rug for the longest time. It took them like 70 something years to really bring it up again. But it's a piece of history that we get to sort of see acted out here, and it's horrendous. And it's also kind of weird, you know, because it's like, you know, just seeing people at their worst, you know. And this is the most affluent, like, black neighborhood that they went in and destroyed, killed people, dropped bombs like they did. It's heartbreaking. And at the same time, we get to see our characters. We get to see sort of like, you know, the same way that you have like Back to the Future sort of go and we find out about like how your parents were, how other people were when they were younger. We get to sort of see how Montrose, what happened to him growing up and why he is the way he is, because his father was horrible. And and being a kid who grew up in the South, I've had people take switches off of trees and get my ass beat. So I know that feeling too. So yeah, just seeing a lot of that stuff, seeing where he came from and how I think one of my favorite quotes is when he talks about like he had to be a man and he had to cut out all the softest parts out of himself. And that's just, it's heartbreaking. And then at the same time, we get to see, Atticus being who he is, where he's, that is that one argument he has. I'm like, Atticus, shut up. You're going to mess things up if you keep talking to Montrose, because you're going to go make him go crazy. But yeah, it's a very powerful episode. It was great to see Hippolyta come back. I was kind of wondering what was going on with that thing with her and stuff. And she comes in like it. Basically almost like the Doc Brown character when he comes back to Marty, and she's like,
she is Erythia Blue now.
Yeah,
she has become her.
Oh, yeah, wow, yes. I get it.
She's had that transformation into the character that her daughter always thought she was, and so she's become that character. And then we get the transformation, and she comes back in the same way like Doc Brown comes back. We need to go with the past. We need to save, Marty. We have that aspect.
All we needed is that Zemeckis tone, you know. That's all we needed.
And basically that the DeLorean is that little, multi-universe machine, so we have that aspect of it as well. So I love that how they integrate all that stuff together to create this. So yeah, and then also just how everything sort of goes back to the beginning of the season. Everything from the baseball player in the very beginning, in the very opening scene, when he says, or seeing or seeing his mom at the end of the fire, seeing people in the fire. We have that sort of aspect as well. So, and that scene with her and the woman in the fire is freaking heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And when you integrate the poem, when you integrate the music, you integrate all that stuff together. It's heartbreaking, especially when you see all the stuff that happened, and I mean, it's, I agree with Chris. It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, but this is the kind of history, this is the kind of stuff that we need to watch. To see where we come from and those things that have happened that should never be swept under the rug and it should never happen again. So yeah, it's a very powerful episode.
Yes, absolutely, and it's through our characters that we all get to experience it and get to experience the emotion of it, and there's so much going on here. Now we've kind of skipped over a lot of the beginning part, and we'll talk about that, here shortly with Dee, because Dee, last we saw her, she was getting attacked by Topsy and Bobsy, and she's like Christopher was saying, there's a little bit of an exorcist moment at the beginning of this. That's interesting and fun. But when we go back to 1921, we really get some deep emotional kicks to the gut. There's some great scenes here. I think award worthy. I think these characters, these three have they've I mean the material is great, but I think they've even elevated it further. I really think they have. The scene with Montrose and Tick, as they're watching Montrose as a young child, or young, he's not a young child, but a young man, dealing with all kinds of issues and drama, and reliving that, sharing that with Tick, and sharing really from that moment up until the moment that they're living at that time, full circle, that, it all boils to the surface, and watching them in that scene is, you can see every emotion going through Tick's heart, and you see Montrose's heart breaking, and you see his drive and you see his reasoning. You learn so much about the Montrose in this particular scene. I mean, there's a lot in the episode, but this particular scene is truly riveting. And then, like you said, the scene with Leti and her, I guess, Tick's great grandmother. I'm not sure how far back the lineage is, but just the pain of it, that what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen, but you can't do anything about it, and you have to literally, in this case, watch it play out. And it's it really is an emotional kick to the gut, and for a lot of reasons. The reasons, from character to character, from just the whole event of it all, from what it all means for the past and for the future. It's just this show is so incredibly well written, and I hope there's people out there appreciating it for that. And then it's kind of ballsy and bold at the same time, and our characters, they're layered and strong. It's just this is an amazing show. This is an amazing show, and I may think this one is the best one of the batch so far. I really think, but I think it wouldn't be without the 8 episodes prior, right? We need the 8 episodes prior to kind of feel the relationships that we're doing here and the reasons why people care. But man, this episode really did it. I was glued. I was absolutely glued to the screen watching it. And the only thing I was like, Leti, can you walk a little faster? There's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to mention now that this is a penultimate episode. This is kind of like the culmination of all our characters, right? This is who they become in this point. And it just occurred to me, because I just finished watching it, and I'm still processing everything that I've seen, as you guys are too. Leti is really the personification of the Black woman and her role in society. And, because honestly, she has gone through the worst. She has seen the worst. She has been killed. Leti has gone through way worse than Tick has gone through. She has suffered so many things, to being there watching her ancestor burn in front of her eyes as her family members are burning around her, and then to walk through the fire, walk through those bombs. Her job is to protect people, and in this case, that is represented by Black men. Black women protecting Black men. And that's something that's spoken of so much, especially right now, that is in our dialogue right now. And to see her as that kind of example of that and walk through that fire, because to me, I thought that too. I was like, God, why is she walking so slow? But then the more I think about it, it's like they're really trying to make that a moment and a statement and saying, no more on your time, my time, So yeah, that was just the show is amazing. The show is amazing.
No, I absolutely.
It is so layered.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I understand the purpose. But man, I was just like, inside my stomach. I'm like, God,
yeah,
it's like turning blue.
Yeah,
it's like, come on.
And Montrose's dialogue, when he turns to the camera and he's delivering that dialogue, I just had tears rolling down my eyes as he's sharing these true stories. It's just disgusting and heartbreaking.
Yeah, and then he's sitting there watching it all
again.
Yeah.
Well, having to relive a lot of that stuff,
Yeah.
And also you hear there's probably stories that he actually got to see happen in front of his eyes again. It's just, it's, oh man, it's so, and just, and also just one of those moments to where, like, if you could go back and change a certain moment, you know, would you do it, you know? And there is that moment, you know, and you get to see how that moment ends, which is like, ugh, horrible. But yeah, it's almost like you kind of wish you could step in, you know, to do something, but you know, a lot of times you can only change. You should work on changing how you are now instead of thinking you could change what's in the past.
Right.
Yeah, because you might lose what you have now. Like when Tick called him Pop again, I'm gonna cry now. It's too fresh.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like they've been at each other's throats for so long, and I think, as they say, you have to sometimes, if you could be in someone else's shoes or whatever, and for him to finally see that. But it's also very funny that Atticus is the one that says we don't need to step in and change the future, but he he basically is.
I know.
The person,
he has
you know,
to.
it's so he's the person. He's the Marty McFly that goes in.
He is.
and changes it, you know.
The mysterious stranger.
Yeah, and it's just this thing that he's been dreaming about all this time, and he's his own hero. You know, he saved his own father's life.
Mm.
How many people could say that? How many people could say they went back in time and saved their father's life? You know,
maybe both of them.
Oh yeah, he saved it, but
both his dads.
Both. Well, yeah,
and his mom, right? That was his mom.
Oh, that's right. He's So
yeah,
he changed.
He is Marty. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry over that.
Yeah. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors just did a wonderful job in this episode. I mean, you feel the disdain early on, and then you feel the realization of redemption and understanding. You know, maybe even a little forgiveness hinted in there.
Although we'll say Atticus, I don't know if it's just maybe him as an actor. He has his own little text. Have you ever noticed every once in a while he'll be talking, he'll just like he'll hold his fingers to his ear. He seems to do that. I don't know. Maybe
I know what you're talking about. But no, I never noticed. Like...
I've noticed that a few times. I don't know if that's just something he's created for the character, or that's just how he is. But
I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of him.
Oh, so but I think
we'll see.
All these actors. I was actually, when I was watching that, I was already in my mind. I was thinking like, who's going to get nominated for Best Actor? Who's going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actor? Yeah. I was thinking, is the lady that plays Ruby, is Christina going to get nominated, or Leti? I mean, but then it's like we also have George. I mean, it's like so many great actors to choose from in this series. Oh, by the way, and what about the WTF moment with the sheriff?
Oh yeah,
that we finally get a little bit of confirmation about the whole Frankenstein thing.
Ouch. That was painful to watch. Oh, I'm glad he went through that pain though.
Yeah, which also shows that didn't Christina say that they needed the sheriff's body, or
he needed to be alive?
They needed to be alive.
Yeah. Oh, just his blood?
I thought that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're probably right. I know it was something to do with him being around or something.
Oh, well, but that was. So we get a little bit more confirmation of what that's about. So he's been basically being stitched together.
Yeah.
It's such a weird ass.
That's a good segue though into D, because that was a freaking reveal. When we went back to her in bed, I did not expect to see her looking that way. Right?
Yes. And that arm. Oh man.
God, with that whole spell thing with the
Well, when her face started changing and everything, when
I got there into one of the Topsy.
I was like, oh no, that was creepy.
But oh man, when all the maggots came out,
that maggot thing. I was like, nope. Don't need to see that.
No, gross. Hey, what did Tick do with his demon dog? Does he have like a big doghouse somewhere for him? Where'd he go? What happened to that guy?
Probably just told him to go out back.
Yeah. I'll whistle for
He's
you.
in a tunnel somewhere.
Keeps it in his bag.
Yeah.
It's like Captain Caveman. He's
Yeah.
pops open the end and pops out.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope everyone gets that reference. Oh man,
Yeah, probably got, 2 people got that rep. Well, if they saw the new Scooby-Doo movie,
That's right. I was gonna say
yeah.
he's in the new Scoob.
yes. Okay, fine.
Mm.
Oh man. Oh, one more episode to go. How are they going to do this?
I think it's 2 hours. I think it's going to be 2 hours.
I was thinking, I was like, I realized that, wow, we just have one more episode. There's like so much stuff we need to figure out.
No way.
So, can we get into theory territory about the last episode?
This might be our last chance.
So, I saw a really interesting theory. So you remember a couple episodes ago when they were talking about the book that Tick's son writes, and they
Lovecraft
said,
Country?
yeah, and he was like, oh, Tick and Montrose were talking about it, and they were saying like, oh, have you read the ending? How does it end? And it's like, oh, well, Christina sacrifices me to become invincible and vulnerable, whatever it is. But don't you remember, like earlier in the season or something, they made a comment about the Count of Monte Cristo, about how the ending was changed for the film adaptation because it wouldn't make good TV for the book's original ending. I can see all of you putting the two in, like,
yes. That's really good. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about now that you said that, and I did not have that in my mind at all until you said it, and that's a really good point. Because he said it's our family history, and some things have been embellished. He did say that.
Well, there's also the ability to the Christina has the magic ability to become other people. So
so is Ruby.
Well, that's true, but I guess the body they'd have to use would have to be somebody in a coma, right?
Yeah.
So if Atticus was in a coma,
yeah, I think Ruby wants to be a redhead. So
I think it's a dead person. I think that because she says that I have to watch them die. Remember, she goes, every time I come out of what's his name? Christina's out of William's skin. He dies again. He dies all over again. So I don't think that they can live.
Oh, gotcha.
Outside of that state.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking that'd be the only way that you could really trade out somebody, but
yeah, to like trigger.
Well,
but she would know.
Well, they also have the ability to go to multiple, worlds, so they could just steal. They could pull a whole like the Christopher Nolan film. Find a clone of himself and put him in there. I don't know. Now we're going into weird.
Maybe it's Nine Tails to the rescue.
I think it's more like what the Slattman's
yeah.
saying. Where we're gonna get a little sleight of hand, or maybe we'll get the actual story, but not the one that was in the book, and we'll hear about that or something.
Oh, if it goes into the fourth wall and we find out it's all being filmed.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That would be crazy.
Truman Show.
No.
Oh no, but I can't wait for next week. I just want to tell you that. All right. Well, it's time to wrap this up. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene. This is what you've been waiting for. But first, if you are hanging out this long, thank you. We appreciate it. We've been enjoying talking about this show and the season, and we can't wait for the finale. So subscribe. Please hit the like button, hit the bell so you can be reminded, and leave some comments. We've been getting some great comments, especially on the last episode. So thank you all so very much, and we can't wait to hear what you think about this. And we can't wait to hear what you think about next week when we get the finale. All right, so now's the time. Let's give our final thoughts, our score, and favorite scene, same order. So Vanessa, that means you are up first. Let us have it.
I cried a lot
No,
during this episode. Sad tears, happy tears, excited tears. I was on the edge of my seat, literally on the edge of my seat. And you know something is good when it causes you to have a physical reaction while you're watching it. I'll tell you right now, I'm giving this one a 5. This was 5+ if I can. This was an amazing, an amazing episode. We found out so much more about our characters and their motivations and how strong and broken they are at the same time, and what they will do to live, in a fantasy sense, Lovecraft Country fantasy sense, and in a real sense, Tulsa 1921. You see what people are made of in this episode. I won't take up too many time because I kind of did a whole, synopsis in the beginning, but there's so many things I can pick from, and I'm gonna have to steal 2 because I'm first, so I can.
Do it.
The first one is, I don't think y'all would mention this one, is when Hippolyta's hair turns blue, and she becomes Orythia Blue to save her daughter. I was crying so much in that moment. And Tick is cheering her on. Go, Hippolyta! She's floating up in the air. What a beautiful, beautiful moment. So well written. But I'm going to take this one because I'm first. It is the Jackie Robinson moment.
Oh, nice.
When that came back around and he's telling that story, the stranger came in like Jackie Robinson, and you're putting that together in your head, that's when I started crying too. I'm going to cry now talking about it. And he goes out there. When he realizes it's him and he goes out there, it's such a beautiful, beautiful moment. Those kids' faces looking up at him is so amazing. I cannot thank everyone involved in this series enough for making it, because it's beautiful and it's so well written, and these characters are so amazing. You just root for them so much. And their story is beautiful and heartbreaking, and it is so difficult to tell a story like that in an unironic kind of way. Everything is so sarcastic these days, and this is just so pure and so true and so real. And it's not TV, it's HBO. What can you say? HBO can do it.
All right. That moment was and that brief moment where that brief moment of fear where they thought they had screwed up because the man, the mysterious.
I know. And you're thinking, you're yelling at the screen. No, you dummy, it's you.
Where's the bat? Where's the bat? Kick. Oh,
yeah.
All right.
So beautiful, Chris.
Right.
Nailed it, man. That's a Back to the Future moment right there, if I ever saw one.
All right, Slattman, you're up next. Give us your final thoughts, your score, favorite scene.
This is an incredible episode for an incredible series. And I would say that unlike a lot of the other episodes where they're very good on their own, this one is very good because of the previous 8 episodes. It doesn't have, I don't think it would have the emotional impact with the characters if it was by itself, unlike some of the other ones that you could totally watch by itself and enjoy it without any or little backstory. The growth of these characters is just amazing, and I love every single one of them. The ones that are good, the one that is bad, like they're all great characters. They're all so well acted. The writing is spectacular. This episode has some of the most gorgeous shots that I can think of the entire series. Like one impressive one is where Leti's just walking down the street and everything is happening. It's just there's just so many well framed, well thought out shots that just you could slap on a poster and it would look awesome. And this series is still continuing to bring forward the controversial racial tension, I guess is a good way to put it, that we're not only still experiencing now, but have been experiencing for 100, 200 some years. So and this one's probably the most eye-opening out of all of them, I would say, because I don't remember who mentioned it, but they were completely right. Like the Tulsa race riots and massacre, like that was something that's not really taught until very recently, and it's very eye-opening to see it, and it feels so real, and it's very hard to watch. So yeah, it's an excellent episode. I'm gonna give it a 5. And my favorite scene is probably when Hippolyta comes in. She's packing the car, and she gives her speech about how everybody's gonna get in the car and they're gonna go save her daughter.
Yes, I'm so excited you chose that.
Excellent. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. Give us a skinny, sir.
Yeah, which it kind of reminds me, that scene. It kind of reminds me of when Doc Brown picks up Marty, and they're like, "Well, you gotta go."
Yeah.
Marty, you gotta go now. But
you sound more like
I know Doc Brown.
Rick.
Rick. Oh, it all melds together. The next episode will be Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Inspired.
Probably.
No.
Yeah.
Well, there sort of is a little bit Rick and Morty inspired if you think about it, the alternate universes. She was even the stuff she was spitting out was a little bit of
See?
Yeah, Rick and Morty. Anyway,
What?
let me not detract from
where we go with this.
Yeah, let me just run off the rails or at the end of this. No, this is an amazing episode. It's kind of sad to me because I think some people seem to have either tuned out or don't like it because of the way it sort of like does something different each episode. But I think this show keeps just making me enjoy it more and more every episode, how it explores different subjects, how it makes me much more knowledgeable, because I still have a lot to learn about history and a lot of things that have happened, and this episode definitely opens your eyes to a horrendous episode in history, but at the same time turns it into a rising phoenix moment for these characters, and I think that's the important part. And I think let me just quote the part of that poem. It's like, "Where is your fire? I say, where is your fire? Can't you smell it coming out of the past? The fire of living, not dying. The fire of loving, not killing. The fire of blackness, not gangster shadows." And I think this show is, I think it not only opens eyes for some of us that have probably never heard of this history or never taught this history, but it also just shows you how, sometimes we haven't really come very far from where we were and how we need to continue to work towards something better in this world. And it's kind of weird when you see you had people during that time were rioting and looting as white people for racism, as opposed to what's happening now where it's actually against racism. It's just so sad. And so many people's lives died in an affluent neighborhood of people that were doing their own thing, innocent people, that these idiots came in and just ruined their lives, and they never got any compensation for any of the stuff that happened. And we get to see that in this episode. At the same time, we have a lot of these story arcs that are starting to sort of finally come back around to sort of find some kind of resolution with some of these characters, whether it's Montrose and his son, quasi-son, Atticus, just their relationship. Leti and the person that she is, who was always not really being non-committal to a lot of different things and not really doing what she needed to do. Ruby being the strong person she is, trying to figure out what she's doing with her life, and just how all these characters are converging to this final episode that's coming up. But yeah, this show is just so amazing, and I think to be able to tell these different historical elements and not to, because sometimes you throw these historical stuff in there, it can be kind of boring. You know, like quantum. Well, I'm not a big fan of Quantum Leap. It's sort of like Quantum Leap, how some of that would go into there, and it'd be almost like force feeding it into you. Not if you're a Quantum Leap fan, I'm sorry.
We lost half our audience.
I know,
Oh,
sorry. But I think this is a, you know, this really does it in the right way, to where it impacts you on what happened in history, but also entertains you with the fantastic elements and those type of things. So, yeah, I mean, the episode definitely gets a 5 out of 5 for me. It's a no-brainer. As for favorite scene, there could probably be several. Some of the ones you guys have mentioned stood out to me, but if I could pick one, it'd probably be that moment where Montrose is sitting in that hotel room and he has that perfect view of this horrible situation that's happening, and he goes through all these different things that happened. And just him talking about it just breaks your heart.
Tears coming down his face.
Yeah, because he's been through a lot himself. He's also been a real asshole to people and been heartful and put through people hell because of what he was put through. But those scenarios of those people that didn't make it out that night, and him into having to I mean, imagine any of you, if you've had in that kind of hurtful episode in your life and you had to go back and see it again, it just piles the hurt on again. Bring back all those feelings again.
Imagine having your first love head exploded onto your face.
Yeah.
And having to relive that.
Yeah. And especially after all those years, because you're not sure what's a memory, what's not, or you try to block it out, and you can't block it out when you're seeing it happen, again. So, but at the same time, we as a society should read more, should relive it through reading about these situations so it doesn't happen again. So history does not repeat itself. And I think this show should be up for all kinds of awards. It should be spotlighted for the historical aspect that it's bringing up, that are bringing people to be more knowledgeable about the different subjects. At the same time, this is how you tell a freaking story, and it's not one of those things that bores you with the historical elements. It informs you. And I think this is the most informative, entertaining show that's probably been on TV, in my opinion. So this show's so great.
Yeah, how can I not agree? This is, and it's this one actually got me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really it drew me into it. It captivated me. It had my attention. My heart broke. My stomach was in a knot at times, and man, it just all over the place. Now, I agree with everything you guys say, but through it all, I was just so attached to our characters. I've come to love them so much, right? I love their flaws, love their relationships, love what the struggles they're going through, and to see those relationships play out in such unique ways that this show is able to do is really it's inspiring in a lot of ways. To get through the hardship, to save those who you love, and the realization of yourself. That's a lot of things. A lot of people just don't know who they are, right? And Montrose was one of those, and it was so powerful to see Montrose kind of come to his own understanding in this particular episode. Now there's a lot of other things going on, but that's kind of at the core. It's his history that we're reliving a lot of, and so he kind of takes center stage in a lot of this episode, and for me, it just made what was great even better. And yeah, so I'm going to give this a 5 as well, and I'll give it much like Vanessa. I'll give it some extra credit and make it 5+. All right, we'll do that. We'll give it extra credit just for the listening such response out of my heart. And yeah, so favorite scene, I think I gave it away. My favorite scene is when they're in that alleyway and Tick stops Montrose and he says, "You can't warn George," and he's not there for George. He's there for this young man, to maybe save him. He doesn't, he said he couldn't even remember his name until that moment, right? And just the power of all that and everything else that comes through. We talked about it. Had to cut out the softness, and a lot of his actions become evident and to the surface. And watching Tick realize that, and you just see all the emotion in his face, in both their faces at that point. And then it's just amplifies everything that's going on. And what a great scene. To me, I've been thinking these actors, Jurnee, Smollett, Jonathan Majors, and now Michael K. Williams. See, and we got some affirmation from the dogs there. I have been really, really strong, and this episode, they just, for me, sealed the deal. I don't know how you cannot award them something. They were terrific, and
Absolutely.
This is by far my favorite episode. But like you said, it's while other episodes can stand on their own, and this one can too. But the power of it, the connection of it, needs all the stories behind it to understand these group of individuals and understand their story and how complex and how layered and flawed and terrific these particular characters are. Good job, HBO. Good job. Good job. I love this. All right, so there you go. We went a little long tonight, but I think it was worth it because this episode deserved it. So thank you for watching and sticking with us. I hope you made it to the end, or at least, if you had to skip to get to it, I hope you get to hear this part. Thank you for watching. Christopher, Slattman, Vanessa, thank you for joining me tonight for this wonderful discussion.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, loving this trip to Lovecraft country.
Yeah. I hope the next one's not a tearjerker.
I didn't know where you were going with that. It was such an interesting way to dive into that. But yeah,
just reflecting on this episode.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
I feel you.
Oh man. Next week is the finale, so we'll see you then. All right, let's say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Gotcha, kid.
Ah.